Hey Jack, how you
Hey,
doing?
Jack.
You hear us okay?
Yeah, how are you guys? I got my matcha drink here ready to go. So
Oh man, Ethan, he's cleaned the system out for you.
This is just Coke. It's beer o'clock. I
Wait,
mean
what
Coca-Cola.
is that? Is that some kind of cereal? Is that apple
And this
juice
is
and
like a,
kale
a a
San
wake up
Francisco
juice.
special?
Yeah, it's a vegetable juice.
You might have to make one for Ethan here, Jack, to get him to the. So,
It's still a bit
so
early
what's in
here, but
yours? What is this little smoothie you got, Jack?
it's just oat milk matcha. I put cardamom, ginger,
Yeah,
cinnamon.
you can stop there. That sounds awful.
Yeah.
yeah, you lost me yet.
I thought about going ginger beer or this.
There
This
you
is
go.
normally
I
my morning
love
drink,
I
but
love ginger beer. I love ginger beer. So in fact, I brew my own kombucha now, and
really?
most of it has been because I love ginger beer so much. But ginger beer is basically and I started drinking ginger beer in Australia, so the
Yeah, we
Bundaberg,
have the
and they
Bundy
have these
Bundy
like
ginger
these
beer.
huge a 40 ounce would be the equivalent in
Uh,
the U.S. of Bundaberg, and I started drinking it, loved it, fell in love with it. But here it's really just a soda. I mean, it's just syrup. I mean, they don't brew it their own. So then I started doing kombucha, and I add in like so much ginger, and it's almost like a ginger beer.
ah,
Of course, I give it a little mint too, a little natural mint to give it
that's
a nice
nice.
aftertaste. But it's good. So no, you weren't with Cuba Pete with me. We're in Northern Territory then, huh?
No, I was in the
Uh,
territory with you, and then Adelaide to start. Yeah,
oh, that's right. Yeah, Adelaide starts. So yeah, so we've been around bouncing forever. I don't know. It's been
yeah. And then we just
25
keep
years
bumping
now.
into each other.
Yeah, yeah. I basically
I
won't
lived in
leave
the
him
States
alone.
for
So
10 years as well, so in
Where
Arizona
in the States
mostly.
did you live when you were here?
Arizona mostly, and then
wherever the
Florida for almost
Greyhound
two
would
years.
take him,
Yeah, it was the outback, the outback of America.
that is the out. It's on the
Exit.
actual Greyhound bus. Is the Outback? It's the bus itself that's the dangerous experience in this country.
Is that a rugby jersey, Ethan?
Yes, we this is New South Wales, so it's a state team. We have a state versus state competition, kind of similar to like when I say state by state, there's only 6 states in Australia, and
Uh-huh.
they're the two most populated. So it's basically half the country versus half the country.
It's wait. It's Northern Territory a state now.
No, Northern Territory's for territory. Maybe there's
Right.
only
Okay.
five
Okay.
states.
Okay.
I don't
Okay.
know. There's not many states. But anyway, so it's a big thing. It's a best of 3 games. We've won the first one, so New South Wales won the first one. I live in Queensland now, so I live in the enemy state now. So I'm wearing this to rub it in. Yeah.
Cool.
But I read that you have some sports betting history.
I did. I really was into it. I love soccer. I've always been into soccer and kind of blended my actuarial background with soccer. I'd probably go about it a little differently if I could if I did it again. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
This sounds like a sports bet gone wrong. Let us kick us off. Welcome to the conversation where we unpack the wild, interconnected chaos shaping our world, including the population's decline and all the reasons for it. Your host, Joe Edgar and Ethan Kruk. Joining us today is Jack Allweil, a fascinating author of 3 books. He brings his actuary perspective to everything from personal finance to sports betting. Jack is a self-proclaimed mathlete and soccer fan, and his writing reflects a journey to find practical applications for his actuarial background and love for his investing in real estate. Jack, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be on.
And I didn't quite catch, but where are you calling in from?
I am calling in from Charlotte, North Carolina.
Oh, wow. That was when we narrowed down Austin. It was Colorado Springs, Austin, or Charlotte, North Carolina. So both
Okay.
those fared kind of the 2008 real estate recession pretty well. So
Yeah.
nice. How long have you been in Charlotte?
I've been here now going on 10 years. It's actually 10 years this month.
Wow.
And
Now are
I
you?
moved
It's
from
anniversary. What's that
Michigan.
one?
Yeah.
What do you get for 10 years? So,
Where you were from the Rust Belt?
I'm from Michigan originally, about 100 miles north of Detroit, right on Lake Huron. Very rural town. Like It might be 2,000 people now, but it was only a little over 1,000 when I was growing up. So
Wow. That's the COVID kind of wave that moved people back there, or?
no, just I think it's gradually gotten, marginally bigger. It's still, I would say
Nice.
more people are still leaving Michigan than moving there. When I travel back to Michigan, I rarely meet people from outside the state. So it's still very much traditional, like, generation after generation. And my
So,
brother and I both decided to move down south, but most people where we grow up at least stay put.
nice. You have a brother. You got one brother, or what's your family dynamic?
I have a brother who now lives in Alabama. He spent a lot of time in Nashville. And my sister still lives in Michigan outside of Detroit in a city called Royal Oak.
Nice. Nice. And your parents still in Michigan?
They are. They're still in Linwood, same house I grew
Nice.
up in.
Nice. Nice. Now, how did you get into the actuary business? Is this
So, yeah, I went to the University of Michigan for undergrad, and throughout middle school and high school and even elementary school, I loved math, and I always intended to major in math. So I got to University of Michigan. I knew I was gonna major in math. I didn't really know what I was gonna do with it, but I liked math, and I did not even know what an actuary was. No one
I
I
say,
grew up with.
a lot of mathematicians end up as an engineer. So an actuary is more like constantly staring people down for probability. That seems like a different course.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I thought it
and
was someone who puts makeup on someone when they die.
my sister's 9 years younger than me, and she would tell people that I count dead people. That was her description
See, I
of
was
it.
close. I was close.
Yeah, but I had a professor like my junior year, a night class. He was an actuary during the day, and then he taught this one night class. And he was sending, I think he had 3 kids. He was sending out of state tuition, and I was like, okay.
Oh, that
And
is
up
killing him. So I could see where it's down the line.
and up to that point, I had been lacking in networking. I thought I was pretty quiet. I still am pretty quiet, but I
You
didn't go
didn't. You
out.
don't have to explain that, Jack. You said you were a mathlete. So
So I realized I was kind of in a pickle in the sense like I didn't really do a good job networking. I need really something I can just, pass exams and I'll get a job that way. And he kind of, the professor framed it up in the sense that it's very a level playing field in that respect. If you pass the exams, you will, go up. And that was kind of that was that. And I decided to take the first exam, and I did well, and I just kept going. The first 5 exams I got through relatively easily. The last 3 were just killer for me. I failed 2 of them
wait,
three
back
times
up,
each.
back up. This is like an actuary certification or something, right?
Yeah. So I
And
was
how many
yeah
exams are there before you get certified?
when
And
I
are there
when
phases to
I
it?
yeah. So when I was taking it, I think they've added on a couple of exams now, but there's 5 like preliminary exams that both the life insurance people take and the property and casualty insurance people take. And then after the first 5, you kind of have to, it's almost like you're picking a major. You're either going to do like life insurance and annuities, risk management, property and casualty, and there's a couple others. I did the
And
life insurance and
and it really
annuities.
is like counting dead people. Because you're not looking at data for how long people lived. You're not counting things until they die, right? So it is
That's
somewhat
that
down
is
there.
yeah, yeah.
So I wonder
Yeah, my
what's
sister's right.
what's Ethan's analysis? Surfing, drinking, or just walking across the street. Which one's going to get Ethan, the fastest? That's he already knows. He's just afraid to tell us, Grok.
I think all 3 can happen at the same time.
They probably will. Oh, I forgot. Getting eaten by a shark.
Yeah.
That's the
No,
4th one.
we just pretend that they don't exist. There's no sharks. It's like it's a big fish.
All right. So how many? I interrupt you, but how many tests are there? to ultimately get certified?
When I was going through, there was 8 total.
8
the 5
total
prelim
tests.
and then the 3 upper
And
level were all.
what kind of time frame do you normally take these in?
I was taking them. So most of them were offered twice a year. Some of the prelim ones were offered 3 or more per year. And when I was really in it, I mean, I was still only taking two a year. So once every 6 months.
Wow.
And
Now, can you be like pre-actuary? So can you start a job as a, only counting the people who have been dead for a long time or something before you get all 8 exams?
So when I was out of school, and I learned about the actuarial field pretty late. There are people that come out of school having passed, 3, 4, 5 exams now. I think is not uncommon. If freshman year you want to be an actuary, you'll just start taking them. Because I found out very early it's much easier to study compared to work and study. So when
it usually happens that way. Yeah.
So when I graduated undergrad, I had only passed 1 exam. And I had to pass. So I took a different job in Wisconsin.
Where'd you go to school?
I went to University of Michigan in Ann Arbor.
Oh, nice. Great school.
And yeah. And so I studied, and I passed 3 exams before I really started getting interviews. They might have even extended it. You might have to have like 4 or 5 now to even get an interview.
Wow.
But
give me a little test of these exams. I mean, which one should you do?
Yeah, give us the answers.
Jump off a cliff or lay in, a soft bed? Are these the type of questions that,
The very first, or the exam that there's not really a preset order, but most people take the probability exam first.
So these are like 8 different sections, and you need to ultimately complete all sections.
Yeah, I mean the first 5 you have to complete. You can't you can't like jump to the upper level ones. But well, actually they might take your money anyway. So if you wanted to pay for them, I guess, because I spent a lot of money taking these exams. But there's a probability exam. There's just basic like annuities. And then they layer in the mortality stuff for reserving. And then there's also, a section that I really liked was like options, like calls and puts, for like risk management with options.
It's similar to like the CFA. I know the CFA has, for more financial advisors, they have 3 tests. I think the Series 68 and Series 3 all have just the 1 test to basically be a broker. That must mean like being a broker is like the bottom of the. I think you even need like 2 tests to get a realtor's license, right?
Maybe, yeah.
So then, what ultimately, do you pull out of? I mean, do you do options? I mean,
I do.
Wow.
I do mostly selling. So I'll do very conservative strategies, mostly covered calls, or I don't know if you've heard of the expression, the poor man's covered call. I do a lot of those.
And the money.
And I've even gotten my wife involved in option selling. She likes selling options now.
You're like
fun.
A pimp on the side, so you're trying to find out. Nice. And tell me something good you've advised your wife to invest in.
I don't tell her what to invest in, because I actually don't really like stocks all that much. I do if I'm doing options, it's mostly on indexes, but I have been doing some on the new iBit because I'm very big into Bitcoin. And up until this point, one of the downfalls of Bitcoin is it doesn't really produce cash. But if you sell calls on iBit or one of these other new Bitcoin ETFs, that would be a way to generate some cash. So I've been doing a little bit of that.
These derivatives markets off Bitcoin, man. We did a segment just last week on kind of crypto and what's facing crypto. So yeah, a lot of interesting stuff. It's a lot coming to us. So how did do you have any kids?
Yeah,
just you and your wife. So
yeah,
one of your passions I know is personal wealth. You've written a couple of books kind of going around that. Some betting. And your wife I know kind of work into growing a real estate portfolio. I think you've done some land sales as I looked up, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how did real estate seem like a reasonable thing to get into as an actuary? Is it just like
So,
death and taxes are
mhm. so
inevitable?
when so if you can envision, so 2015, I moved to Charlotte. It's a totally new city. I didn't have any friends, and I was still studying for these actuarial exams. And at the time, I felt like I was getting a little overwhelmed. My life was a little out of balance. I wasn't doing a particularly good job at work, and I wasn't doing a particularly good job
Wait a
in my
minute.
social life.
We already did the drug episode, so we don't want to talk about the
So,
Ritalin and the all night.
so I actually ended up losing my job in the end of
Nope.
2016.
I guess we're going to talk about the drug episode. Go ahead. Tell us.
He went there.
And so
Ethan's like, I
so
need to finish my drink before we get into the.
so at the end of 2016, I lose my job, and I remember at the time I did get pretty lucky because I had switched housing. When I first moved to Charlotte, I was paying like I think $1,300 a month, but after a year, I moved into this. It was kind of like a part-time job actually. I got subsidized housing and threw events for the community, so I was only paying like $500 a month. So when I got let go, um, I felt fortunate that I was in a position where I had low rent, but at the same time, I was like, man, if I owned a house, I could just like travel around for a little bit and not really worry so much about even paying rent.
You mean
So
because
then,
you would rent out the house, or
yeah, yeah. So and shortly after I got fired, my brother bought a house in Nashville,
I like the
and
you see his strategy. He's like, listen, honey, if we owned the house, we could live on the street, but we'd have some income.
that's
Like,
right.
I'm sure that was a great pitch for us. Like, oh yeah,
So
actuary.
yeah, so I saw my brother, and my brother's younger than me, and normally I feel like he was learning from my mistakes or learning from my experiences, but I got to see him go through that, and I'm like, yeah, so like once I get another job, I'm gonna buy a house and I'm gonna rent out the other rooms. So as soon as I got another job, 2017, I worked a couple months, got approved for a loan. I I bought a 4 bedroom, three and a half bath. Thought it was good, split level, good for dividing up the space, and just started renting out the rooms. And that is actually how. And I met my wife actually in Austria after I had been fired, and because I house hacked, I was able to take significant
So you
time off.
rented
And
all 4 rooms out then, and
well, I rented the 3 other rooms.
oh, gotcha.
And but during like COVID, because we were still doing long distance, if you can believe it. And she was not allowed to come here to America, but I was allowed to travel there. So I spent like 5 months in Austria during the start of COVID, and then we just decided we got married in end of 2020, and then she was allowed to come into America.
Now,
And
you met her on a dating site?
I met her on JSwipe, if you can believe it.
J-Swipe. Unfortunately, I don't know what that is, but give me a little insight. I love hearing about.
That is
I know
like
Tinder. I know
that
that's
is
about.
that is the Tinder for Jewish people,
Oh,
basically.
nice, nice. J-Swipe, nice.
And
So
at
you
the
want
time,
M
I
swipe,
was,
Joe? You want M swipe?
and I was, so yeah. After I got fired, I took a trip to Europe, and I went to see like where my grandparents grew up in like Poland, Hungary,
Mm.
and
Oh,
it
really?
was actually the night after I visited Auschwitz. I toured Auschwitz, super depressing,
Yes.
and I went on JSwipe, and well, unsurprisingly, there are not many Jews in Poland, but my wife was in Vienna, and I was planning to go to Budapest like the next day, so I flew into Budapest, rented a car, and drove over to Vienna. We just got coffee, and then nothing like crazy, like sparks wise, but we stayed in touch. And then a couple months later, she ended up visiting. She got a lot of time off. She worked at the UN in Vienna, so she had a pretty good setup there.
I'm sure there are many ancestors who are pretty proud that Auschwitz inspired you to find a girlfriend.
I guess so. Yeah.
Nice. I have a team. I go to Krakow probably 5 times a year, so I have a team
Really?
there, and then I have
Okay.
a team in the eastern part of Ukraine, so I cross over do a lot there.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, my grandfather grew up in Krakow.
Really? Yeah,
Yeah.
nice. Wow.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful area. Poland is not talked about too much, but it's the fastest growing country in EU right now. If you were there 10 years ago and you compare today, it is just a booming place. So a lot of Polish used to leave and try to get jobs in England and everywhere else, but now it's the place to grow a company and have a job. So yeah, beautiful place.
Apparently, they have free elections now too. Like, you know, didn't they just go against? Did they just elect a populist leader
They
instead
just
of
elected a populist. Yep. Trump gave it a little sway. So yes. Let's not digress.
Sorry, is that
We'll get
bitter?
into-
That's a bit of
we'll
wound
get
to
into-
talk about
We'll
right
get
now.
we'll get into Polish politics later. But so you met your wife over there, and you end up visiting her back. You have this place that you're renting. Then, how did basically you get deeper into real estate? You're like, hey, this worked out great. Let's find other ways that you can put this talent that you're calculating kind of returns on to work. Is that really where it came about?
So so I did the house hack starting in 2017. I started listening to like Bigger Pockets, reading more. And I basically just, I don't know if I heard anyone specifically do this, but I just started cold calling property managers and asking if any of their clients were like looking to offload. And that's how I got my first set of deals.
Wow.
I got 5 units from one couple going through a divorce, and they were near or in Michigan, near where I grew up. Like they call it like the Tri-City area, like Saginaw, Bay City, and Bridgeport was where I got units, and I guess the rest is history. I bought 7 more units in 2021, just being back home during COVID, and I got to spend more time with my real estate agent, and she would just show me stuff during the day, so that was kind of fun.
Now, is your wife become a real estate agent? Is that what you're implying, or no?
No.
All right, no judgment. No judgment. We're just kidding.
But yeah, so but after 2021, at least in the cities I was accustomed to investing in, the rent ratios really, I didn't find very attractive. Like the prices were just going up so much. And
by that, do you mean the cap rates or
just the prices? Yeah. The cap, yeah. Cap rates going down. Yeah. And I just didn't think it was really worth the hassle, and I just gonna be patient, I guess. And I found this guy that goes by the Land Geek, Mark Podolsky, on a couple different podcasts, and I started listening to him some, and I was like, oh, this he was just flipping raw land, and I'm like, I wouldn't have to deal with these property managers or tenants. Like, this sounds pretty good. Holding costs are very low. And so I gave that a go. I took his class, and 2 years ago, I just started flipping land, and I primarily put my time to that right now. I don't make, I left my like full-time actuarial job, and I don't make nearly as much as I used to, but I have a much freer schedule.
All right. But you're growing basically this little empire of real estate deals that's going to basically produce passive income into your retirement, right?
Trying. Yeah, it seems like it's getting harder and harder. I just got a couple inspection reports from like the local
on land
city. No, on my rentals, and
Gotcha.
They came back with like 14 different repairs that had to be done, and the tenant, I just asked him like actually a couple months ago if he wanted to like buy it from me. And he said no, but I love the place. Everything's working great. And I'd love to keep renting. And after I got this inspection report, I got so annoyed that I'm like, man, they're going to have me fix all this. And it feels like it'll be disruptive to the tenants. But the tenants didn't complain at all. Like, they were perfectly fine living in the condition it was. And I feel like if I'm going to do these repairs, I basically gave them 30 days to get out I'm trying. I guess the property managers I use are going to try to facilitate them to go to a different place.
He's calculated some of these. You're just going to die if you keep this. So That's the actuary mind. Like,
It's like I'm slowly dying. I might just want to be done with some of these. I just feel like I'm getting squeezed. And then I got, and then like my insurance for the 7 unit went up 12% this year, and the coverage
insurance has gotten outrageous.
basically not basically the less coverage. If I mean,
As prices have gone up and agents in Australia, I looked up Australia. We talk about it as well all the time. It's basically, if Australia was closer to the U.S., we'd invade it with Canada. Let's be honest, right? But Australia is facing many of the same obstacles we are. Prices are going up like crazy. There's a big shortage. But as you have seen prices go up, what are some of the contributing factors you might assign to it?
well, the overarching macro thing is just all the printing of money. But I would say certain zoning. I mean, I don't have like a specific thing, but it just seems like the zoning and like restricting new supply coming on seems to be a big thing. The fact that the U.S. has a 30-year fixed rate mortgage tends to keep people where they are.
Japan, it's now 40. Isn't that crazy?
Really? I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's about 10 years ago because they couldn't move interest rates. So.
Okay, I didn't know that. I actually thought the U.S. was like the only place that had like a 30-year fixed.
No.
Oh, no, Australia's had it for a while. No one can do 15 years here.
Really? Okay. Yeah,
I thought houses are insane.
15 years is rent in Australia. That's how you finance your rent.
Yeah, you wouldn't believe how much it costs to own a house in Australia.
So it is 50 million households have at least $200,000 in equity built up, not including their debt. But most households have the majority of their savings in their home. It's huge in the U.S. It's also the same in Australia. It's even more in China. The world at large is facing a population decline. We talk about this often, and so there's a lot of moving things going on for various reasons. People aren't selling their house. In the U.S., we have a housing shortage.
Here in Australia, no one lists any private sales anymore. People don't even put the price of the house anymore. Everything goes to auction. They want it as public as possible. They want 100 people fighting over the property, and it happens every time.
Well, you told me just before this, you said when you have a house built now, the price cannot be set.
In Australia, so the biggest builders have had to renegotiate prices under contract while they're building the house. And the people that they've sold this construction to have had to agree to the higher repayments and new terms, or they lose their building. They lose their, so there some people were just, couldn't even afford to move into their house that they had started building. It was because the market was just increasing every 6 months. It was insane.
And how hard is it for either of you to buy or sell without a broker? Have you tried, or do you just, Jack, you had said you have a good relationship with a broker, so they're, able to help you do stuff.
Yeah, I've bought all my deals. We bought one condo in South Carolina through a broker. All the other ones I've kind of done off market, but it was through a real estate agent I knew, but the houses were not on the market yet.
So those are pocket listings.
Yeah, I suppose.
Now, do you normally have a prearranged kind of commission, or is he just standard 3%?
I've always paid her. I've always been on the buy, and then all the land flips I do, I actually do all of the paperwork myself.
Whoa.
I sometimes will have a title
Jack
company,
of all trades.
I guess so, yeah. But I've sold a lot of those, but I haven't used agents for any of those. So,
gotcha. So you're satisfied 3%. So you say, in what we're doing, this works. And then how does she, I guess, get you pocket listings? How does that normally work?
You mean like how did? There was
because they're not listed on MLS, right? That's what you're saying. Is that maybe the public doesn't know, but she's got some insider.
Yeah, it's more. Yeah, that's part of the thing I like about real estate is like there's nothing against insider trading. Like like this couple going through the divorce, they basically, when I found that deal, they had this real estate agent in mind that they felt comfortable facilitating the deal. I said, okay, whatever. It's still a win for me. Like, I don't really care. And then I just kept working with this agent. I just said, if anything comes across your desk that you think I might be interested in.
She basically sits outside divorce attorneys' offices. Like,
Yeah,
I got another lead for you. He's walking out. There's a little fight going on, so I wanted to throw this out there so we kind of understand. The NAR, National Association of Realtors, ended up settling a class action lawsuit last year that really does change the 6% commission. So in the U.S., and in Australia, it's around 3%, so it's a little less. But here, the buying agent tries to get 3%, the selling agent tries to get 3%. So the NAR class action lawsuit was pushed to say, okay, well, you have to disclose because if you're a buyer, in the end, the buyer pays all of it. And that's what's kind of ridiculous is they are going to pay all of it. But what they want is more disclosure. So now seller's agent and the buyer's agent has to be presented separately. And it can even be excluded from the deal at large. And so it'd be a bit of a shock to, be a buyer and then come and buy and then find out you have to come up with another 3% on top of that because it's part of the deal. And the same thing for a seller. If you're selling it and then they're going to have your 3% come in separately. But it's to make it more flexible for negotiations on the 3% from both sides, so they say. However, it's changed some things because now, in order to keep that harness, you see what are called private listings or these pocket listings.
Yeah, and the 7 unit was like her colleague's father owned it, and he was getting older and just wanted to be done with it. So I guess I got a first look at it.
That's great. Now, it is true, though, you would say, all right, as a pocket listing, what's nice is you got it early, you can make an offer, but to that point, if there were more people to see it, the price might have gone up, right?
Yeah, I mean.
So getting in early and having an inside scoop does, give a little edge. So that would kind of say, all right, well, that's good for buyers because it might lower prices for buyers. But on the seller's side, it may not be as good if you're trying to sell for a higher price, right?
Yeah. That's true. Yeah.
And then it's a crazy real estate world, and your land sales, how do you exactly buy and flip them? So
I'm basically sending out mailers to out-of-state owners with the thought
you're that guy.
I am that guy.
I have a lot of real estate, and I constantly get letters like, hey, I've got an offer for you. And I'm always like, it's a scam. I know it's a scam. You're just trying to list the property.
Well, the thing with the rentals that I don't like about those letters is like, yeah, we'll offer on your property, but there's no number. It's like, and then I'll sometimes get, text messages like, oh, are you interested in selling? Well, yeah, make me an offer. Like for the right price, I'm willing to sell. But the thing I like about these desert squares is I put an offer right on the letter. So they don't have to think. They don't have to, and then I'm also not wasting time
it comes
getting
with
callbacks.
A price.
Yeah, I get 2024 was a little lower than I would have liked. I got like it was like a 0.8% response rate. In my like post analysis, I needed to up my prices on this one area. Kind of weighed down my response rate.
Gotcha. Now that's your prices buying or selling?
That's what I'm buying. Yep. And typically when I sell, what I've been doing is I've really focused more. I had trouble selling to retail on like Facebook Marketplace and a lot of these parcels. Like, well, when I started, real estate agents wouldn't even get out of bed for like if they're like, you're not going to really get an agent to try to sell like a $4,000 piece of land. So like, that wasn't really an option. Now, actually, it is. Some of the agents are taking, just to get it on the MLS. I know land investors now that are going to agents and, offering them 6-10% just to list it on the MLS. Because even people that are looking for vacant land sometimes start on like Zillow and that. So, and I'm gonna try it out these next couple months with some of my parcels.
Yeah,
But,
you mentioned Facebook. Facebook has become a big leader in real estate now.
Yeah.
They haven't quite flexed their muscle, but now it's a big place to go find a rental. So
Yeah.
they're not far from having an entire sales site similar to a Zillow or a Homes.com.
Yeah, definitely. Unfortunately, I had not had much success selling on Facebook to the retail market.
I write an article for Forbes. My last article I wrote was about some of these gatekeepers, and these gatekeepers being these technology giants. And so these are, and look, it's real estate. Realestate.com.au is in Australia, owned by REA, which is Rupert Murdoch, which is Move.com or Realtor.com in the US. So that's one of the gatekeepers. You have CoStar, which owns Homes.com, or they own Apartments.com. And then you have Zillow, you have Redfin. So these large listing sites are the gatekeepers, and they're so powerful that when Zillow moved for sale by owner, they made it a separate button, so a whole separate tab. That entire traffic dropped by like 95%.
I focused more on getting my like investor email list up. So a lot of times I'm buying parcels and then I'll bundle them and sell like 10 at a time to other investors. So that's typically what I'm doing.
Gotcha. And do you buy these land sales? You're buying them right next to each other? I mean,
not always.
It sounds like a lot of work, Jack.
It is a lot of work for these low dollar amounts, but I'm still like getting my reps in. So hopefully I'll graduate to the fewer deals, larger dollar amounts soon. But I'm about to close on 36 parcels next month. So that'll be the most I bought at one time. And I think there's 19 1-acre plots all next to each other. So that hopefully will give me a little more flexibility. And I might actually try to list that with like an agent.
So Compass is similar to Redfin. They're one of these large brokers. They're actually backed by SoftBank, so a very, very large private equity firm, and came in and just started buying up local offices everywhere, broker offices. So they're very large now, publicly traded powerhouse of brokers. And so they're similar to a Keller Williams. And so they're one of these firms that brings up the topic of, dual position. That means they have both buying and selling brokers in their house. Are these up and coming neighborhoods, or whereabouts do you find these? Really?
Not particularly. I exclusively mail for Apache County, Arizona. That is it's like size wise, it's like the 6th largest county in the U.S. It's very diverse. I typically mail to parcels in the north part of the county, which is high elevation, very rugged, a lot of off-grid livers.
That's Ethan. I think that's where you were, right?
It's my ex and her family, yeah.
If it paints the picture, I went out there last summer just to do a little bit of research, try to get a better lay of the land. And I met this guy. He had a gun on him, had changed his last name because he was his own man. And
to Vance?
And he was explaining to me how he set up his solar panels. He had his batteries. This whole community participated in a water co-op because it would cost like $100,000 to drill a well at that elevation. So they all take their huge jugs of water over to this community well, fill up their water, and that's how they live. But yeah, that's where those are the types of parcels I'm buying. A lot of desert squares.
Gotcha. But this time you may use a broker, have the broker basically, either sell them off individually or, on their own. Is there a large markup in these properties?
I would say they fall into kind of like 4 buckets. I'd say so there are some people that want to get away, build a house now, Some people just want like the hope to build something in the future. Maybe if something goes wrong where they live, they want like, a plan B type of thing. Some are just investors. And then I would say, I would kind of categorize this like investors, like recreational, like they want to like drive their 4-wheelers or shoot guns. And then I would also say like there's another group, like I would say they're like libertarians, and they just don't like holding cash. They want to save in anything except cash. And those are those types of people.
Gold and property. Gold, property, and Bitcoin. Is that the?
Yeah, that's right.
Those are them. And Arizona seems to be the place that has them, right? Now,
I kind of settled on Arizona because Arizona is very easy to do the online research. I can look up the chain of title pretty easily online. Whereas like I remember when I was first starting out trying to pick a county, I first looked into Arkansas. I mean, Arkansas appealed more to me. Just there's more forests and rivers. I was like, yeah, this is a place like maybe I would
if
like
nothing
to go
else,
to.
the land will have stuff to grow in it that you could sell.
Yeah. And
unlike a cactus.
Right. But it was hard to do the research. I was going to have to pay services, and when I was starting up, I didn't really want to have all these extra expenses.
And when you research these properties, I mean, how do you what tools do you use to research?
There's the county parcel viewer. You can go and look up the APN, the parcel number, and it'll show you the assessor and treasurer information to see if they.
And that's every county basically has the tax, property tax info. Gotcha.
Yeah, but the cool thing about Arizona is you can go on the recorder's office part of the website, and you can actually look up all the deeds that were recorded for that parcel, and then I can check the chain of title that person A sold it to B, person B sold it to C, and now I'm talking to person C. I'm like, okay, I feel pretty confident that I'm talking to the person who owns the land.
And is that it? You just look on the county title, try to figure out who the person is, and call a complete stranger?
Yeah.
Do you do any like Google Maps to see what it's like, or Zillow comparisons?
The Google camera hasn't been out to those places, Joe.
Well, the parcel viewer has a satellite mode where you can.
They're like black. There's black empty square on the Google map.
Yeah,
it's just airbrush. It's just airbrush desert.
But I'll do some of that, and I mean, I kind of just peruse like there's some land like land.com. There's Landmodo. There's sites devoted to just vacant land, and I kind of just compare and
Nice. So Compass has their CEO has told all 35,000 of his brokers, let's do a pocket listing for 45 days. And that pocket listing, what that would do is it means, hey, try to sell it internally. So sell it amongst brokers. And so those brokers mean internal brokers that are all in the Compass family. And so Compass would then get both sides of the transaction. So Zillow then fought back, and Zillow said the CCP, Clarity Competition Agreement or something, keep a listing private for 24 hours max, and then it needs to be on MLS so everybody can see it. The whole world can see it at that point. And Compass is trying to say 45 days. Zillow is trying to push back and say, no, if you do it, we won't even put it on here. And so it creates power grabs because Zillow is trying to say, I want all the inventory. Otherwise, people won't come to our site. They would go to like Compass. And Compass is trying to say, well, we want 45 days because we'll sell it internally. If it's internal, the buyer, of course, will pay less because there's going to be fewer offers to the seller. So the seller will make less, but Compass will make more on commissions because they'll have both sides of that sale. These new changes and these gatekeepers and this fight that's happening over real estate, on some fronts, it could bring real estate down, but make certain companies wealthier. It could actually push real estate prices up and make it harder for all of us to find deals.
I don't know if doing that private holdings is going to make the price of the houses more expensive. I mean, I think it's just to control that percentage, right, of the sale.
Yeah, I've bought all my deals through a real estate agent I knew, but on my rentals, I track a lot of things in Excel. I mean, I pay my property.
He's an actuary.
My
He loves
my
the
property
spreadsheets.
managers kind of just I've outsourced most of that now. I mean, I just pay them 10% of the rents, and they take care of it. But I mean, but lately
the
they haven't been
property
cash flowing.
managers.
Yeah, they have not been cash flowing like they used to. So on like a relative like purchasing power basis. So this is the first time where I'm like, man, maybe I should pivot a little or look to offload some of these, because it's not and like I said, these inspections and just some of the rules, and they were trying to on my 1-3 unit, they were upping the taxable value. So like, even though the property tax rate's not going up, they're saying the value of the home has gone up so much, and now they're trying to tax me more that way. I mean, and then now I'm having to appeal that. And like, actually the 3 unit, they said, I mean, these numbers make it sound like it's a really bad property, but so they said the taxable value was worth like $120,000. And I was like, there's no way I could get $120,000 for this. And to prove it, I tried to sell it I put it up for sale for $75,000, and I did not get a single bite. And then I took it to them. I'm like, there's no way you can tax me at $120,000. I listed it for sale at 75, didn't get a single bite.
Did you win?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Nice.
You should have
Now,
got
are
the
you
valuator that worked for Lolita Jones. You know, the one that valued Trump's golf course or
Yes.
with Mar-a-Lago. You should have got that valuator in.
Although they had the opposite problem. You'd have been able to get a loan like, hey, it's worth $300 million.
Yeah, you should have taken a loan against it. You should have got an equity loan against your house for $120,000.
Corporates have stepped in, and people have blamed, these big companies like Blackstone, who have something like 145,000 rentals, and they've been accused of pushing up prices during COVID. I mean, have you bumped into them or anything along that way?
I have not in my experience, but I'm just a small fish in this in this sea. So
I mean, they do only make up, I was shocked, they only make up 4% of the market. And so I could see, I mean, I've heard lots of complaints about it, but it's actually a pretty small, group of them. It sounds like they're very big in Phoenix. They like Phoenix and they like Atlanta. So, they kind of push around, but it doesn't sound like they're too big on data either. So it sounds like you don't run into them as much either.
They must like casinos.
Yeah, I wonder how big they are in Vegas. Vegas is a fun place. For a while, I was like, I would love to have a place in Vegas, but then you go outside and really,
it's still the
terrible
desert.
outside. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't want to live outside. Well, there's some rental tools out there that, have changed a lot of things, and they're trying to make it better, but it creates some issues for us. Same things happen in Australia. They're essentially trying to make silos. So recently, Rocket made an offer to buy Redfin. And so they think they can accelerate that, finish that purchase this year. That would mean, and if you're familiar with Rocket, they do loans. They'll do the loan on your house. So they've been buying some escrow tools. They're trying to get home insurance in there. Redfin recently bought the Rent Homes family of companies. So now they have rentals, they have homes for sale, they're a broker service, and now they can loan you the house and even escrow it. And so it is nice because, if you look from one point of view, you could have all the tools in one place to search for, find, make an offer, and finance a home all in one place. It's fantastic. But where it does give some cons is now, because of these silos and a lot of the fights that are going on, not all listings will be on the same platform. So then you as a consumer, you're forced to sign up for, soon it'll be like signing up for Zillow, sign up for Rocket and Redfin, then you got to sign up for CoStar. And whatever one you pick will come with a whole solution, where it used to be nice. You can go on one site and everything was, no matter where you went, all of it was on one place. And now the inventory is being limited into these silos where you basically have to be on each one. You all experiencing that or seeing that? I mean, this is just kind of the general market that's happening, but this is where I can, see it going, where it's good if you find a house that happens to be on one of those platforms and you like it, then it's fantastic. But if you're actually trying to research or house hunt, then it's going to be terrible because you're going to need 4 or 5 solutions.
Well, I guess the price should really come back onto the realtors, right? Like, so if they've got to earn their 3%, right, either side. So wouldn't they be the ones that have to have all these, I guess as a private person, it's got to be a lot harder.
I don't know if I mentioned this, but we are trying to sell our, we had like a short-term rental in Myrtle Beach, and we are trying to sell that one. This will be the 3rd round we've been trying to sell. And from the feedback I've been getting, our real estate agent has said it's very hard to have like an open house at this particular condotel because they don't allow signs. And so I guess there's some other things to think about. I mean, I would imagine condos are very are going to take a big hit because they're so sensitive to the price. Like every condo is basically the same. So whoever's priced the lowest is probably just going to get, the bid. And I don't know.
Condos are a hard one because they're finding out with insurance that attached homes, which is a condo, you're getting dinged like 2 to 3 times as much on insurance now because if one goes, they all catch a light. And so condos are becoming very expensive. In fact, what are they calling them? Black zones or black listings, where basically insurance companies, there are areas where like, we just won't insure that property because some actuary out there calculated that this thing, won't last.
Yeah. Karma. A lot of houses are being built in like a split style here. So like it's a duplex, but they try to make them look like single homes, but they're selling them as 2 separate brand new homes. These are like building companies, like everyone's building them here because there's no real estate, like so everyone, it's kind of a go between like a condo and a house, right? But it's they can't build real houses anymore. They're too expensive.
Yeah, the condos are actually nice here. So Austin and Oregon are 2 areas where it's become very popular, but these ADUs, alternative dwelling units. And Oregon finally realized that the problem that rent and housing is going so high is it's a supply problem. So now any property, so long as it has enough square footage in the property itself, can be a 4-unit. So you can make a 4-plex anywhere.
Oh.
And so Austin has followed that. And then California passed a law. You can no longer have single-family home zonings. In the U.S., there's an estimated 6.5 million missing housing units based on Redfin and both Zillow estimates. But Austin's doing the same thing. We haven't seen them. It's fairly new here, these ADUs, but it's becoming popular. And then another thing in Austin is these tiny homes. There are tiny home. I don't know if you have these in Australia.
Yeah, we have tiny home communities. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. They're popping up here in Austin. They are tiny. They're very small, but you can get a house for like $45,000, but you can only put, 1 foot in at a time, but they're very cute. And
I think there's a nursery rhyme about that. Yeah.
That's exactly.
We have a building, like there's a lot of units going up around me, and they just rezoned it. So there was a building company, they had almost finished constructing a 12-story building. I imagine they had a backup to try and add these stories in case the zoning changed. The zoning changed while they were building it, and so now they're adding 6 more stories to the top of it. But there's a lot of news here where like it was all houses, it was all single or 3-story max. Now they're going 30 stories in those suburbs. Like, so you're seeing all these things pop up everywhere. It's crazy.
Yeah, Austin is building a lot downtown. I know there's a lot of condos, but Americans in general don't live in apartments that much. I mean, there are downtown apartments, but We're not a big, and I compare this to Europe and South America where they do live in apartments a lot. So it's more suburban sprawl. And so, these places pop up all over the place. But some other legislation and things that have come around is in the rental world, because prices have gone up. It started in a lawsuit against RealPage in Arizona, where RealPage basically has these tools, and there's many of them out there, so they're not the only ones, but they do an algorithm on rent, and they help the landlords maximize rent. And so what they do is they assess it and say, okay, well, every 11 months, so you avoid a 12-month lease, every 11 months, you tell the tenant they have to move out, but you tell them you have another rental they can move in, but of course it has a higher price. And so they move tenants. There's so much churn, but they constantly increase prices. So in a market where, supply is tight, they can constantly push up prices. So they use these algorithms. Colorado has just, I don't know if it's signed now, but the governor said they're outlawing these algorithms. The truth is, AI can now run most of these. You don't even need an algorithm. All you need to know is what are the rents going on in these areas, which is becoming more and more, information. So even rents are getting a lot of pressure on tenants to basically pay more. So housing's going up, tenants are going up just because supply shortages are going up. But realtors don't quite fit into that. In New York, realtors do take on a commission, and so they'll help you find a rental. But outside of New York City, it's not a thing. You don't typically use an agent to find a rental. I know in Australia it's a little more common, but
yeah, here that's what
in
a
the
property
US.
manager actually is. In Australia, a property manager is someone who manages your rental properties, and they'll take 10%, like Jack was saying, and
Exactly.
maintain it for you, and you just collect your dividends.
Yeah. So that's similar to what happens here. They typically charge you a management fee plus a month to a month and a half for finding the tenant the first time, and there's a whole
Yeah, they deal
process.
with all they basically give you a short list of who your renters are going to be, or who's qualified. They pre-qualify your renters, everything like that.
Yeah.
Set up different have a bond clean, whatever, make sure that if the tenants leave the place destroyed, that it can be livable again.
Ethan knows them well. They're always
I have to. I'm blacklisted by every property manager.
Exactly.
I can't rent.
He's really what's going on with the condo market. It's like being blocked out anywhere he goes. Like, oh no, if Ethan's then no, just cross the whole thing off. But rents are being pushed up. But one thing that's very strange in the market right now is we are seeing, highest levels in the last 5 years. So not record like 2008 or anything, but highest level in the last 5 years of homes for sale. But some of the lowest level of homes being purchased. And most of the homes, what's interesting, if you look at the data, new constructed homes are really where the sales are happening. Existing homes are not a lot of movement. And my own take is just because people are sitting on so much equity that they had in Austin, for example, valuations went so sky high during the 2022 time period. So they're having a little adjustment. They're coming down now. In fact, they built so many rentals that rents are adjusting as well, coming down. But people are set on the 2022 prices. So they're listing their home at 2022 prices and just not willing to budge on the 2025. Not that much, but slightly lower prices. And my own take is just because they sit on so much equity, they're not in a position where they have to sell. And it seems to be the same thing all around. I assume most states are doing it. So I know, Jack, you're trying to sell one. I mean, what's your story about selling and adjusting the price and how long it's been on the market?
I saw Myrtle Beach is up about 40%, the inventory, 40% from last year on these condos. I think nationwide, I think it's around 20%, I want to say I saw something like that. But Myrtle Beach specifically, inventories on...
So everybody wants out.
Yeah, I think I mean, I think people are getting worried about these special assessments too, coming up, because I don't think enough was put into reserves
Right.
for some of these fixes and insurance, roofs, all that good stuff.
And hurricane
And
season's around the corner.
yeah, but yeah, people are wanting. But I think to your point, yeah, a lot of people are sitting on a lot of equity, so they can afford to be a little patient with coming down. And like on the buy side, I mean, it seems like the median like house price to the median income is like one of the highest ratios it's been here. I mean, I know outside of the US they're still higher than our ratios, but for the US these are very high and unaffordable for most people.
Yeah, it's crazy. The average house in the U.S. now sells for $420,000. That's just
Right.
unbelievable.
There's that.
It is definitely.
There's a meme that I keep seeing. It's where it's like it's got someone's grandparent. They bought a house for a turnip, and now they're selling it for a super yacht.
That is exactly what it is. So, Jack, give us kind of some final words. If you're selling in this market right now, what do you think? What do you think your actuary mind tells us to do? And if you're buying right now, what do you think your actuary mind tells us to do?
I mean, a lot of on the buy side, it would have to be a really good deal, because a lot of I track, I call it my JPI, my Jack Price Index, and I
Nice.
track a bunch of products, services, things that I like to invest in. I track those prices over time, and basically my hurdle rate at this point is like 17%. So if it's not, if I don't think I can make at least that, I'm not doing it. Because
That's 17% ROI. I assume not. I assume that's cash on cash, meaning what you bought it for, what you can sell it for. You want to make 17%.
Yeah. Or really, yeah. I mean, I guess IRR is really what I'm getting at.
Oh, it is that. All right.
Yeah, but just some of the stuff. I mean, I'd rather go buy with some of how fast the price have been going up in some things. I would prefer to go buy other stuff, honestly.
Gotcha.
And like I am a fan of Bitcoin, so like Bitcoin, gold, land, just sit on things right now. And
Gotcha. So prices are too frothy at the moment if you're going to buy. So
Yeah.
even inflation is not scaring Jack. So he says, give it a hold.
The on the sell side, I mean, I've tried to seller finance to people to make it more affordable to them. I haven't really gotten any bites so far to the current tenants, because I have been trying to offload some. So yeah, it's my take, I guess.
So I mean, does that mean just hope and pray if you're selling, like sell what you can, or do you think
I mean,
price cuts are in order, or do you think
if I were to get an offer much below what most people think the market is, I might be a seller in some circumstances. And like this, where I got this inspection report where I'm gonna have to make these fixes after this tenant leaves, I am probably gonna try to list it real quick, see if I get any bites at a discount.
And do you think, in that vein, a lot of people are selling rentals. A lot of rentals have switched to home owners versus rentals. So if you put it on the market, chances are a family might buy it versus a landlord. Yep. So how does that play into if it's vacant? You think it's a better way to sell it, or do you think you should sell it as a rental with a tenant?
Well, the thing is, if I kept the tenant in there, I was going to have to fix it exactly how they said it, because that was to protect tenants. If I sell it, if I have them out, I don't have to obey those rules anymore. So then I can kind of just show it as is, and someone can do what they want with it. And like I said, the current tenant had no issues with it, and he had just mentioned like a couple months ago how much he liked the house. So this rule, I feel like, backfired on the tenant in this scenario.
Now, I think it's time we expose what's on this list. This is like, there's a small patch in the hallway wall. There is, a small little ding. Jack's like, I'm not doing a damn thing.
Well, there were some things like that, and there was also like they said there's some like moss on the roof. But then there were some other things like level the stairs. I'm like, what? Like these are some bigger things.
How do you level stairs?
I'm guessing they look wonky, right?
I guess. I don't know if they took their level to them and looked at every step or what.
Wow. Interesting. Well, you heard it
Maybe
here,
they're only
folks.
wearing one shoe. Sorry. Maybe they're only wearing one shoe.
You heard it here, folks. Hostile dysfunction, where we impact the wild, interconnected chaos shaping the world, including the population's decline and all the reasons for it. Our guest today, Jack Allweil. Really appreciate you, Jack, and love the advice you've given us. And hopefully we'll stay in touch.
Yeah. Thanks so much, guys, for having me on.
Nice talking to you.
Really
See
appreciate
ya.
it.
Thanks, Jack.